Hey folks, it's Rob here with another Ask Rob Anything, which is where an annual member of our community gets to try to stump the guru and ask me anything to find out what it is they're going to progress them on their property journey. And today we have Harsimran, who has a question. So g'day, mate. Firstly, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Rob. How are you?
Not too bad. How long have you been an annual member in our community, mate?
It's been about 8 months now.
Very good. Come to all of our meetups?
I've been to a few in Melbourne, and then I try to join in virtually each time, across Australia.
Very good, mate. We run them everywhere for those who aren't aware. So you can live stream those anywhere around the country. So, mate, you've got a question for me. What have we got? Try to stump the guru.
Sure. So the question that I've got for you, Rob, is as I said, I've been a member for 6 to 8 months, and I really want to get into the property development as an investment strategy for myself. But the question today is that how do you rate buy and hold compared to the property development? And when I say property development, I'm talking about the townhouses as the strategy. So how do you rate buy and hold compared to the property development as an investment strategy? So that's also considering the current interest rate environment and also the risk associated with the building firms that are going bust left, right, and center.
Okay, so that's a pretty big question when we start to add on, things like interest rates and stuff. But let me first qualify this up front and say I actually did 20 years of buy and hold. Got myself to a position where I was in a position to be financially free after 20 years and regrettably got divorced. So I had to hand it all back. And that's when I started my property development journey. So I'm fortunate enough to be able to speak from both worlds. Now, both strategies work. There's no, I'm not going to try and say that one is better than the other. They are just different. Now, buy and hold takes, has some constraints that sit behind it, but it also means that you have a little bit of an easier go at things. So you do tend to put a small amount of research in, purchase a property, and you're going to have to be assessed for your ability to hold that property for 30 plus years or 20 to 30 years. Okay. So your serviceability and your deposit from your actual starting position is assessed every time you want to go into a deal. Now, in theory, depending upon where you're purchasing, that should double every 7 to 10 years if you listen to the rhetoric. That's not 1,000% reliable. That really depends on, have you done your research that you've picked the right area. But if you have, I guess it does work and it does grow. And what it tends to do is it tends to grow your net wealth, as in your asset base. It doesn't tend to grow cash flow other than small incremental chunks, because we have to still pay back the loan. By the time we pay back the loan, that then creates some challenges with regards to having enough surplus cash. And where you touched on before with interest rates, that can be quite challenging. So you're really assessed on what resources you've got right here, right now, when you're doing buy and hold. And so we tend to hit these glass ceilings with regards to how many properties we can buy, and we're limited to how many get to do that, asset accumulation. Now, property development, on the other hand, is the opposite. So instead of sitting back and waiting and letting the market do the work, we have to do the work. So we have to functionally learn a new trade, and through our own sweat equity, our skills and our knowledge, we force value onto the property. And by being able to force value on the property, we get to accelerate the time that it takes to actually add the value. Instead of waiting 10 plus years, we can actually bring that all the way down. So I've had projects that have gone as short as 6 weeks, but there are also projects that, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, depending upon what it is that you're choosing to do. The primary difference between them, though, is that because it's an accelerated timeline, then we have a lot more opportunities that are available to us from a funding perspective, and also because of the fact that we're forcing value on. And so we can get into deals where we've got little to no money, because we're not being assessed on our ability to hold it for 20 or 30 years, but rather we're being assessed on the profitability of the deal. So if you're coming into something where you've got little to no money, then there's lots of different opportunities to say, well, how do I creatively acquire or control the property where I don't use my cash? I might use someone else's cash, or I might leave the vendor in the deal and not purchase the property and share the profits with them. or I might get an option contract. We've got lots of different ways where we can add value without us necessarily owning it. So from a resources perspective, if we're lacking the resources to fund it, we can be resourceful and find creative strategies to actually purchase the property. Now, in doing so, we can force the value on, and we may have to share some of those profits, but that's a deal that we would never have gotten into in a buy and hold sense, because we couldn't have actually added that value proposition to the process. So the buy and hold goes at a very, very slow rate, but then hits this glass ceiling and can't go any further. The property development side of things goes at a very rapid rate. And even though you've got limited resources, you can actually get yourself in. And then what we want to do from there, start small, learn the skills of the trade, and then slightly step up a deal size and slightly step up a deal size until such time as we can actually own a property outright. In which case, it's not just the property that grows every 7 to 10 years, but it's also the cash flow that it actually generates, which would be 100% positively geared at that point in time. So that's the ultimate goal. So what we are going to become is we're actually going to become a buy and hold investor, but we're going to create it at a wholesale rate. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And another part of my question was around the construction and the building firms there. I know the situation's getting better by each passing day, but there are still a lot of news in the media that construction firms, they're going bust. So what's your 2 cents on that?
Well, construction firms have always been going bust. 1 in 5 construction companies goes broke all the time. And so it's something we always need to be aware of as part of our process. But it's about identifying the risk, which we have, and then we put a risk management plan in place. So we're going to make sure that we do all of the checks to make sure that their building licenses are up to date, that they haven't got any black marks against those, that their financials are up to date, that we've got letters from their accountants that they're actually doing, that they're actually trading solvently, that we go and inspect their properties and make sure their projects, make sure that all the subbies are being paid and that the work is actually happening on time and those sorts of things. If we do the due diligence on our builders up front, then that mitigates a lot of that risk. Now, you can never eliminate it, but you do mitigate it. And what we try to do is we then manage the project to say, well, we're going to have regular check-ins with the builder and make sure that subbies are still being paid. And, we're only going to pay progress claims when the work has actually been done. So there's a whole bunch of things we put in place to minimize the impact or the likelihood and the impact of that when it does actually occur.
Cool.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome, mate. So anyway, thank you for your question. That's been, I guess, great. If you are a member of our annual community and you would like to ask Rob anything, then click on the links below and you can submit a question. And then we too can have a little bit of banter and see if I can add some value into your life. Otherwise, I'm going to see you at one of our upcoming meetups, mate, in Melbourne. I'll be there in a couple of weeks' time. So till then, I'm going to say bye for now.
See you. Thank you, Rob.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.